everybody, Vex Gaming here today, and today, as you see, we're live. I'm recording this live. We're reacting to Penpal, the full story. It's 2 hours 14 minutes. It's long. I'm not sure we'll get through all of it. We might do chapter by chapter, so we might do footsteps, balloons, and then boxes, I think it's called. And then we'll do this as a part 2. Or we'll do an hour now. I mean, no, I would do maps separate. But yeah, I'm going to break this into parts. So, let's listen. I like the little
This
visuals.
is long, so I apologize for that. I've never had to tell this story with enough detail to actually explain it all the way, but it is true, and it happened when I was about 6 years old. In a quiet room, if you press your ear against a pillow, you can hear your heartbeat.
Yeah.
As a kid, the muffled, rhythmic beat sounded like soft footsteps on carpeted floor. Almost every night, just as I was about to drift off to sleep, I would hear these footsteps, and I would be ripped back to consciousness, terrified. For my entire childhood, I lived with my mother in a fairly nice neighborhood that was in a transitional phase. People of lower economic means were gradually moving in, and my mother and I were two of these people. We lived in the kind of house you see being
Just so you know, this is one of the few medias out there that I find generally terrifying. I keep hearing this is absolutely terrifying, and I'm excited to react to it. It has been something that's on my list since you mentioned it, and... Oops. 1 second, gotta fix it. Oh, wrong app. But yeah, it's been one of my things, and I've been wanting to do more and more creepy things. Because on my stream, it's been mostly gameplay stuff. And this is a mostly horror, like, centric channel here on YouTube. So I've been trying to find a way to balance these out. Sorry, I'm just seeing if I can get a coffee. But yeah, this has been on my thing, and I've been wanting to, like, do generally scary things in between my games. So I think I'm going to start it with every stream going forward now with a list of, like, horror videos or things to read real quick that take probably, like, less than 25 minutes to react to. And then I'll probably do, like, how I did here at the hour and 30-minute marker, or 2-hour marker-ish, have more of that in here. So I'm hoping to do that more often, because I really do enjoy reacting to this. I'm gonna put pause. I'm going to let it go. I'll talk over it at some points, because it is reacting, so I'll pause and react to it. So just so people know the video, if you get, because I see some comments when I watch reaction on horror stuff. They're like, "Why are you guys talking?" Because it's a reaction video.
transported in 2 pieces on the interstate, but my mom took good care of it. There were a lot of woods surrounding the neighborhood that I would play in and explore during the day, but at night, as things often do to a kid, they took on a more sinister feeling. This, coupled with the fact that, due to the nature of our house, there was a fairly large crawl space underneath, filled my mind with imaginary monsters and inescapable scenarios which would consume my thoughts when I was awoken by the footsteps. I told my mom about the footsteps, and she said that I was just imagining things. I persisted enough that she blasted my ears with water from a turkey baster once just to placate me, since I thought that would help.
Isn't that abuse?
Of course, it didn't. Despite all the creepiness and footsteps, the only weird thing that ever happened was that every now and then, I would wake up on the bottom bunk, despite having gone to sleep on the top. But this wasn't really weird, since sometimes I'd get up to piss or get something to drink, and could remember just getting back to sleep on the bottom bunk. I'm an only child, so it didn't matter. This would happen once or twice a week, but waking up on the bottom bunk wasn't too terrifying. But one night, I didn't wake up on the bottom bunk. I had heard the footsteps, but was too far gone to be woken up by them. And when I was awoke, it wasn't from the sound of footsteps or a nightmare, but because I was cold, really cold. When I opened my eyes, I saw stars. I was in the woods. I sat up immediately and tried to figure out what was going on. I thought I was dreaming, but that didn't seem right, though neither did me being in the woods. There was a deflated pool float right in front of me, one of those ones shaped like a shark. This only added to the surreal feeling, but after a while, it seemed like I just wasn't going to wake up because I wasn't asleep. I stood up to orient myself, but I didn't recognize these woods. I played in the woods by my house all the time, so I knew them really well, but if these weren't the same woods, then how could I get out? I took a step and felt a shooting pain in my foot, which knocked me back down where I had been laying. I had stepped on a thorn. By the light of the moon, I could see that they were everywhere.
Honestly, that would hurt. Stepping on, like, I'm not sure if anyone's here stepped on, like, a throne, or, like, a thorn, or a, little sharp object, like wood, into your foot. It hurts. It's not fun. It hurts. And so that would hurt. I would be yelping. I'd be just straight up yelping. And this guy's a kid. Kid. I don't know how he does it. How did he do it? I don't know. I'd be hurt. I'd be in pain. I'd cry.
I looked at my other foot, but it was fine. As a matter of fact, so was the rest of me. I didn't have another scratch on me, and it wasn't that dirty. I cried for a little bit, and then stood back up. I didn't know which way to go, so I just picked a direction. I resisted the urge to call out, since I wasn't sure I wanted to be found by who or what might be out there. I walked for what seemed like hours. I tried to walk in a straight line, and tried to course correct when I had to take detours, but I was a kid, and I was afraid. There weren't any howls or screams, and only once did I hear any noise that scared me. It sounded like a crying baby. I think now that it was just a cat, but I panicked. I ran, veering in different directions to avoid big thickets of bushes and collapsed trees, and I was paying close attention to where I stepped because by that point, my feet were in pretty bad shape. I paid too much attention to where I was stepping and not enough to where those steps were leading, because not long after hearing the cry, I saw something that filled me with the kind of despair I haven't experienced since. It was the pool float. I was only 10 feet from where I had woken up. This wasn't magic or some supernatural space bending. I was lost.
Damn. I'd be gone. I would be like panicking. I would just, not that I would give up. I'd just panic. I just honestly wouldn't run wildly. I would try to, if I'm looping, if I pick up an item, I can put it somewhere else and figure out where to go, and then I can correct course that way. If that makes any sense, like, that's what I would do, in my opinion, though it is easier said than it is done.
Up until that moment, I thought more about getting out of the woods than how I got in, but being back at the beginning caused my mind to swim. I wasn't even sure that these were my woods. I had only been hoping that they were. Had I run in a huge circle around that spot, or did I just get turned around and start making my way back? How was I going to get out? At the time, I thought the North Star was just the brightest star, and so I looked and found the brightest one and followed it. Eventually, things started to look more familiar. A dirt ditch my friends and I would have dirt clod wars in. I knew I had made it home. By that point, I was walking really slowly because my feet hurt so much, but I was so happy to be close to home that I broke into a light jog. When I actually saw the roof of my house over a neighboring lower set house, I let out a light sob and ran faster. I just wanted to be home. I had already decided that I wouldn't say anything because I had no idea what I could possibly say. I would get back in the house somehow, clean up, and get in bed. My heart sank as I rounded the corner and my house came into view. Every light in the house was on. I knew my mom was up and I would have to explain, or try to explain, where I had been.
Imagine explaining that to a parent. Yeah. That's why I said as a child, I'd be panicking. Like, I would, like, think once I got lost in a little woods forest area called Brookbanks, and I used Pokemon cards to make sure I knew where I was going. It's upsetting because I lost my Charizard. Or was it a Charmander yet? It was a Charmander, I believe. No, it wasn't Charmander. Charmeleon, I think it's called. The second evolution. It was like a special version of it. But I used those to know my path because Brookbanks is like an 8 shape, if that makes any sense. So it's easy to overlap yourself with it. So, I mean, it only took me like 20 minutes to get out, but it was just something like... I think I got that from Hansel and Gretel. But yeah, that's the method I would have used. But imagine explaining that to a parent.
And I couldn't even figure out where to start. My run became a jog, which became a walk. I saw her silhouette through the blinds, and although I was worried about how to explain things to her, that didn't matter to me at that point. I walked up the couple of steps to the porch and put my hand on the doorknob and turned. Right before I pushed it open, 2 arms wrapped around me and pulled me back. I screamed as loud as I could. The feeling of being so close to being safe and then being physically pulled away from it filled me with a kind of dread that is, even after all these years, indescribable.
No.
The door I had been torn away from opened, and a flash of hope shot through my heart, but it wasn't my mom. It was a man, and he was enormous. I thrashed around and kicked at the shins of the person holding me, while also trying to get away from the person who had just come out of my house. I was scared, but I was furious. Let me go! Where is she? Where's my mom? What'd you do with her? As my throat stung from screaming and I was drawing in.
I have never really been truly lost in the woods. I was lost in a forest for a short while when I was younger, but a teacher showed up and was like, where I had been, and I was like, I don't know.
In another breath.
Honestly, yeah. How do you explain where you've been? I don't know where I was.
Present for longer than I had perceived.
You think I know? You
Honey,
think I...
please calm down. I've got you.
It sounded like my mom. The arms loosened and set me down, and as a man approaching me blocked out the porch light with his head, I noticed his clothes. He was a cop. I turned to face the voice behind me and saw that it really was my mom. Everything was okay. I began to cry, and the 3 of us went inside.
I'm so glad you're home, sweetie. I was worried I'd never see you again.
I'm sorry. I don't know what happened. I just wanted to come home. I'm sorry.
It's okay. Just don't ever do that again. I'm not sure me or my shins could take it.
A little laughter broke through my mom's sobs, and I smiled a bit. Well, I'm sorry for kicking you, but why'd you have to grab me like that?
I was just afraid that you'd run away again.
I was confused. What do you mean?
We found your note on your pillow.
She said, and pointed at the piece of paper that the police officer was sliding across the table. I picked up the note and read it. It was a running away letter. It said that I was unhappy and that I never wanted to see her or any of my friends again. The police officer exchanged a few words with my mom on the porch while I stared at the letter. I didn't remember writing a letter. I didn't remember anything about any of this. But even if I sometimes went to the bathroom at night...
Just a question. Is this, either like a stalking or, another version of himself? Like, if he's, like, some people have multiple personalities and don't understand. Is this what it is? Because pen is a derivative word of person psychosis of, an alter you. Like, when you're sleeping, you like, sleepwalk and you do different things, but that has no personalities. But I'm not sure, like, is that it? Because if I broke down Penpal, that's where I would get, because pen, P-E-N-P, is the beginning phrase of that kind of disorder. And AL is standard for adult long term. That's if I were breaking down what I know now. But it could not be. I could be overanalyzing it with the way I do things sometimes, but...
night and didn't remember, or even if I could have gone into the woods on my own, even if all of that could have been true. The only thing I knew at this point was, this isn't how you spell my name. I didn't write this letter.
Is this the best survival game ever made?
Is this an Irishman?
When I was 5 years old, I went to an elementary school that, from what I've come to understand, was really adamant about the importance of learning through activity. It was part of a new program designed to allow children to rise at their own pace, and to facilitate this, the school encouraged teachers to come up with really inventive lesson plans.
This is called balloons.
Each teacher was given the latitude to create his or her own themes, which would run
I
through
just say
the
the
duration
voice
of
acting
the
work
grade,
in this is really
and
good.
all the lessons in math, reading, etc. would be designed in the spirit of the theme. These themes were called groups. There was a space group, a sea group, an earth group, and the group I was in, community. In kindergarten in this country, you don't learn much except for how to tie your shoes and how to share, so most of it isn't very memorable. I only remember two things very clearly. I was the best at writing my name the right way, and the balloon project, which was really the hallmark of the community group, since it was a pretty clever way to show how a community functioned at a really basic level. You've probably heard of this activity. On one Friday, I remember it being Friday because I was excited about the project, and it being the end of the week. Toward the beginning of the year,
Honestly,
we
that
walked
never
into the classroom
changes.
in the morning
That
and
never
saw that there
changes.
was a
You
fully
become an
inflated
adult?
balloon tied off.
You become an adult Friday, you're excited for because that's the weekend. You know you got a weekend day off. Most people will either have the Saturday, the Sunday, or the Friday off. You're excited when Friday hits. Same thing as a child growing up. It never goes. That was a well-programmed thing.
With a string taped to each of the desks. Sitting on each of our desks was a marker, a pen, a piece of paper, and an envelope. The project was to write a note on the paper, put it in the envelope, and attach it to the balloon, which we could draw a picture on if we wanted. Most of the kids started fighting over the balloons because they wanted different colors, but I started on my note, which I had thought a lot about. All the notes had to follow a loose structure, but we were allowed to be creative with those boundaries. My note was something like this. Hi, you found my balloon. My name is... and I attend elementary school. You can keep the balloon, but I hope you write me back. I like Mighty Max, exploring, building forts, swimming, and friends. What do you like? Write me back soon. Here's $1 for the mail. On the dollar, I wrote 4 stamps right across the front, which my mom said was unnecessary, but I thought it was genius, so I did it. The teacher took a Polaroid of each of our balloons and had us put them in the envelope along with our letter. They also included another letter that I assume explained the nature of the project and a sincere appreciation for anyone's participation in writing back and sending photos of their city or neighborhood. That was the whole idea, to build a sense of community without having to leave school, and to establish safe contact with other people. It seemed like a fun idea. Over the next couple weeks, the letters started to roll in.
See, him saying it seemed like a fun idea is telling me that it reached something that it shouldn't have reached. That's what I process from this. Also, it's very good, very well written.
Most came with pictures of different landmarks, and each time a letter would come in, the teacher would pin the picture on a big wall map we had put up, showing where the letter had come from and how far the balloon had traveled. It was a really smart idea, because we actually looked forward to coming to school to see if we had gotten our letter. For the duration of the year, we had 1 day a week where we could write back to our Penpal, or another student's Penpal in case our letter hadn't come in yet. Mine was one of the last to arrive. When I came into the classroom, I looked at my desk, and once again, didn't see any letter waiting for me. But as I sat down, the teacher approached me and handed me an envelope. I must have looked so excited, because as I was about to open it, she put her hand on mine to stop me and said, "Please don't be upset." I didn't understand what she meant. Why would I be upset now that my letter had come? Initially, I was mystified that she would even know what was in the envelope, but now I realized that of course the teachers had screened the contents to make sure that there was nothing obscene. But all the same, how could I be disappointed? When I opened the envelope, I understood. There was no letter. The only thing in the envelope was a Polaroid, but I couldn't really make out what it was. It looked like a patch of desert, but it was too blurry to decipher. It appeared as if the camera had moved while the picture was being taken. There was no return address, so I couldn't even write back if I wanted to. I was crushed. The school year passed on, and the letters had stopped coming for nearly all of the other students. After all, you can only continue to write correspondence with a kindergartner for so long. Everyone, including myself, had lost interest in the letters almost completely. Then
Damn.
I got another envelope. My excitement was rejuvenated, and I reveled in the fact that I was still getting a letter when most of the other pen pals had abandoned their involvement.
I want to see real quick if we can get the Penpal Polaroid. Penpal How do you spell Polaroid again? Polaroid? R-O-I-D? How do you spell Polaroids? Don't think there is an image. I would think someone would have to, would have made it. Here's itchy. No. No one's made, like, a Polaroid to go with it. I like to do that sometimes when they say, 'cause some people do make them.
It made sense that I received another delivery. There had been nothing but a blurry picture in the first one, so this one was probably to make up for that. But again, there was no letter at all, just another picture. This one was more distinguishable, but I still didn't understand it. The photograph was angled up, catching the top corner of a building, and the rest of the image was distorted by a lens flare from the sun. Because the balloons didn't travel very far, and because they all were launched on the exact same day, the board had become a bit cluttered. And so, the policy for students still exchanging letters became that they could take the photographs home. My best friend Josh had the second highest number of pictures taken home by the end of the year. His pen pal was really cooperative and sent him pictures from all around the neighboring city. Josh took home, I think, 4 pictures. I took home nearly 50.
Whoa.
The envelopes were all opened by the teacher, but after a while, I stopped even looking at the pictures. However, I saved them in one of my drawers that housed my collection of rocks, baseball cards, comic book cards, Marvel metal cards for those who might remember, and little miniature baseball battling helmets that I'd gotten out of a vending machine at Winn-Dixie after T-ball games. With the school year over, my attention turned to other things. My mom had gotten me a small snow cone machine for Christmas that year, and Josh had really coveted it.
Lucky!
So much
I
so that
want
his
one!
parents bought him a slightly nicer one for his birthday, which was towards the end of the school year. That summer, we had the idea that we would set up a snow cone stand to make money. We thought we'd make a fortune selling snow cones at $1. Josh lived in a different neighborhood, but we eventually decided that my neighborhood would be better because there were a lot of people who cared about their lawns. The yards in my neighborhood were slightly bigger. We did this for 5 weekends in a row until my mom told us we had to stop, and I've only recently come to understand why she did that.
Oh.
On the 5th weekend, Josh and I were counting our money because we both had a machine. Each had a separate stack of money that we could put together into one stack, and then we could split it evenly. We had made a total of $16, and as Josh paid out my $5th,
That's not
a feeling of profound surprise consumed me. The dollar said 4 stamps. Josh noticed my shock and asked if he had miscounted. I told him about the dollar, and he said,
"Oh, that's so cool, man."
As I thought about it, I came to agree. The idea that the dollar had made it right back to me after changing so many hands floored me. I rushed to tell my mom, but my excitement, coupled with her being distracted by a phone call, made my story incomprehensible, and she responded simply by saying,
Oh, wow, that's neat.
Frustrated, I ran back outside.
Nah. As a parent, I don't care what happens. You tell me you came home with a mysterious photo after doing this balloon exercise, and you have had an issue running away, waking up, not knowing where you are, and all that stuff. And then you come home with this dollar thing. We move it. We move it. care. We move it. I don't care how nice the house is. We sell the house, we go to an apartment building. I don't care. Mm-mm. Mm-mm-mm. Never. Never, ever, ever. No. Yet. Never. I don't care if it's just happenstance. I don't care if there's a reason for it. No. We do not invite that bad juju into this household.
Josh, I had something to show him. Back in my room, I opened the drawer and took out the stack of envelopes and showed him some of the pictures. I started with the first picture, and we went through.
Then we getting a tent. We keep going one direction. We get a tent. We put it there. I'll work the corner so while my kid goes to school. I don't care. Mm-mm. You do not mess with bad juju. Mm-mm-mm.
About 10 before Josh lost interest and asked if I wanted to go play in the ditch, a dirt ditch down the street from my house, before his mom came to pick him up. So that's what we did. We had a dirt war for a while, but it was interrupted several times by rustling in the woods around us. There were raccoons and stray cats that lived in there, but this was making a little too much noise, and we traded guesses as to what it was in an attempt to scare each other.
It's your pen pal.
My guess was that it was a mummy, but in the end, Josh kept insisting that it was a robot because of the sounds that we heard. Before we left, he got a little serious and looked me right in the eyes.
He's taking it, or he, she, it, whatever, is taking photos of him. That sound is the Polaroid clicking sound. Or most cameras have that as a sound effect now that you can have. That, no. No. I was right by saying, let's go buy a tent. We're moving out. I was right. No.
Said.
You heard it, didn't you? It sounded like a robot. You heard it too, right?
I had heard it, and since it sounded mechanical, I agreed that it was probably a robot. It's only now that I understood what we heard. When we got back, Josh's mom was waiting for him at the kitchen table with my mom. Josh told his mom about the robot. Our moms laughed, and Josh went home. Mom and I ate dinner, and then I went to bed. I didn't stay in bed for long before I crept out, and decided that, due to the day's events, I would revisit the envelope, since now the whole affair seemed much more interesting. I took the first envelope and set it on the floor, and set the blurry desert Polaroid on top. I laid the second envelope right next to it, and placed the oddly angled Polaroid of a building's top corner on top, and did this with each picture until they formed a grid that was about 5 by 10. I was always taught to be careful with the things I was collecting, even if I wasn't sure they were valuable. I noticed that the pictures gradually became more decipherable. There was a tree with a bird on it, a speed limit sign, a power line, a group of people walking into some building, and then I saw something that vexed me so powerfully that I can now, as I record this, distinctly remember feeling dizzy and capable of only one single repeating thought. Why am I in this photograph? In this photograph of the group of people entering the building, I saw myself holding hands with my mother in the very back of the crowd of people. We were at the very edge of the photo, but it was undeniably us. And as my eyes swam over the sea of Polaroids, I became increasingly anxious. It was a really odd feeling. It wasn't fear. It was the feeling you get when you're in trouble. I'm not sure why I was flooded with that feeling, but there I sat, floundering in the distinct sense that I had done something wrong. And this feeling only intensified as I looked on at the rest of the photos after the one that had so powerfully struck me. I was in every photo. None of them were close shots. None of them were only of me, but I was in every single one of them. Off to the side, in the back, bottom of the frame, some of them only had the tiniest part of my face captured at the very edge of the photo, but nevertheless, I was there. I was always there. I didn't know what to do. Your mind works in funny ways as a kid, but there was a large part of me that was afraid of getting in trouble simply for still being up. Since I already had the looming feeling of having done something wrong, I decided that I would wait until tomorrow. The next day, my mom was off work and spent most of the morning cleaning up around the house. I watched cartoons, I imagine, and waited until I thought it was a good time to show her the Polaroids. When she went out to get the mail, I grabbed a couple of pictures and put them on the table in front of me as I was waiting for her to come back in. When she returned, she was already opening the mail and threw some junk mail into the trash can, and I said,
Smile.
"Mom, can you come here for a second? I have these pictures."
Just give me a minute, honey. I need to mark these on the calendar.
After a minute or two, she came and stood behind me and asked me what I needed. I could hear her shuffling with the mail behind me, but I just looked at the Polaroids and told her about them. As I explained more and pointed to the pictures, her frequent
Uh-huh.
and
Okay.
decreased, and she was suddenly completely quiet and only making a little noise with the mail. The next noise I heard from her sounded as if she was trying to catch her breath in a room that had no air in it. At last, her struggling gasps were conquered, and she simply dropped the remaining mail on the table and ran to the kitchen to get the phone. "Mom, I'm sorry. I didn't know about these. Please don't be mad at me." With the phone pressed to her ear, she was walking and running back and forth and shouting into it. I nervously fiddled with the mail sitting next to my Polaroids. The top envelope had something sticking out of it that I thoughtlessly and anxiously pulled on until it came out. It was another Polaroid. Confused, I thought that somehow one of my Polaroids had slipped into the stack when she threw the mail down. But when I turned it over and looked at it, I realized that I had not seen this one before. To my dismay, it was me. But this one was a much closer shot. I was surrounded by trees and
It's
smiling.
getting closer.
But it wasn't just me, I noticed. Josh was there too. This was us from yesterday. I started yelling for Mom, who was still screaming into the phone. I repeatedly yelled for her until she finally responded with,
What?
and I could only think to ask, "Who are you calling?"
I'm talking with the police, honey.
"But why? I'm sorry. I didn't mean to do anything." She answered me with a response that I never understood until I was forced to revisit these events from the earliest years of my life. She grabbed the envelope off the table, and the picture of Josh and I spun and slid, landing next to the other Polaroids in front of me. She held the envelope up to my eyes, but I could only look at her and watch as all the color began draining out of her face. With tears welling in her eyes, she said
Damn.
that she had to call the police because there was no postmark.
So if there's no postmark, that
Oh,
means
dude, that was a cool
it
kill.
was dropped off to the house. He had to have dropped it off himself. That's crazy. That's crazy, man. Okay, after boxes, which is another 20 minutes, we're gonna stop this part of the stream. I'm gonna come back to this again later after the boxes. I want to break it up. I want to enjoy it. I really like this feeling, and it's one of those things that I don't want to sit down and enjoy all in one sitting. I feel like this is one of those things I'm going to think about through the couple days that I'm going to be watching this, because this is really good. This would be a How do I think he ended up in the woods? Well, I have three running theories. First theory is that it's him doing this in a sense. Like, he sleptwalked, got to the woods, and then while he's in the woods, these things occur and stuff. Second theory is, I think he was kidnapped. I think the person has known for a while that like who he is and kidnapped him and all that stuff and brought him out there. Theory 3, I want to feel I it could be completely wrong. It could be some sort of mystical or fantasy thing, but I think it's gonna, like, I can see it being a story that the mom is incurring, like, is doing this, but I think it'd be more on the supernatural side. But it's a supernatural thing. Those are my three running theories right now for this. He's not dirty, and his feet was clean footsteps. Wait. He was not dirty, and his feet was clean footsteps. Photograph. But why the pool floaty? Why leave him there? I think the pool floaty is, that's a good question. What kind of pool float? Do we know what kind of pool floaty it is? Is it the one with a bottom or no bottom? I could totally see this being a, him doing it, his subconscious in a sense. Or I could see this as like a extreme stalker sense. I can see the pool floaty if it has a bottom used to keep him clean. Or I can see the pool floaty as other things. That's where I'm a little stuck. I think it can be one out of two kind of stories. It's really, really good. It's really well written too. So we're gonna do boxes. And then after boxes, we will take a break from this because this is another hour after boxes. Another 2 hours. Hour and a half after boxes, I believe, right? Like another hour-ish. It's shaped like a shark. That's what I'm thinking. He was floated in the floaty in a sense. That's what I'm thinking. That's where I'm going with this so far. That it is either a supernatural kind of story, which sometimes creepypastas are supernatural. It's slowly piecing it together. I think it's gonna be one of those. I'm gonna release this, and I'm going to have a breakdown of what I believe so far, and then we can take these videos. I can make this a whole series. I'm thinking about it because the way I like it so much. I want to analyze it so much. I can take it as this video, post it, boom. Then I can do one after it of me reviewing it. Like, reacting and trying to figure it out, and then we can see if I'm right at the end. He could have gotten to the woods without cutting his feet. So either a stalker or something other than human. Stalker. That's what I'm thinking. It's either a stalker that is human or a stalker that isn't human. I'm leaning to more isn't human. Like, like Mephisto. Mephisto's known for doing that. I don't think they're going to use Mephisto. Mephisto is a weird cut for them to do for like a creepypasta. But Mephisto would be the best example. Mephisto is a demon known for doing this through like folklore and stuff. But I don't think it'd be Mephisto they would use. Even though this is a photo of Mephisto in here, yeah, because the eyes and it arches down. I believe that's what that is. Like, so a little tangent. Sorry for the people in the video because I'm not editing this. I want this to be all raw. When writing for my book, Diary of the Coyote, which should be done. Well, it's done. I just have to edit through it. Which I've been working on for a few years. Have you not heard? No, it kind of looks like Mephisto. Do you know what? It looks like Diablo's version of Mephisto. But I was trying to find a creature of a trickster deity, and a deity of knowledge that is the one and the same to write this for. And so I came across a Mephisto, which I'm like, that's a little too obvious. Mephisto. I want something that's more stalkerish, and I landed on the Coyote, which is a Native American trickster and knowledge demon. Well, not demon, but that's how I twisted it. Where he doesn't really enact on his prey. He kind of stalks them until they kind of lose themselves. But, what is this deity? Yes. I was gonna release it on Discord for people, my Discord for free, and then I am also gonna be selling it to like off of my Patreon or Ko-fi, as like a hard copy and stuff, and or a digital copy. But people in Discord will have it access for free. It's almost done. As a matter of fact, let's go to Canva. Actually, we don't need to go to Canva because I think I did downloaded it. Oop, I didn't want to open up this many. So this is what it like the cover. I need to fix this. This is the one thing that like why I say I need to edit because I can't get this up. And it's pretty long. It's multiple stories into one, and there is puzzles throughout the book. That's why there's a puzzle index. I almost did not include the puzzle index because I thought that it'd be a little too easy. But I also know a lot of people aren't familiar with Caesar, vignette, book cipher, musical ciphers, and mirror ciphers. So, but there are 7 stories that consist of the coyote, which is Wake Up, Whispers, First Claim, Watching, The Bookkeeper, Hannah's House, and Fair Play. And it's all twisted mythology of the coyote. You know, this thing is just his friend, you know? It's just his friend at this point. Buying him snacks, or buying his food. I need to... My chat broke, 1 second. Buying his phone. Like, it's clearly, it's attached itself. Like a poltergeist almost. It is attached itself. But yeah, it is, it's a creepy entity in general. But I'm also like, the Coyote book is a story that I started writing a long time ago. I picked it back up, like, a little bit over a year ago to finish it off. And I don't think it's scary. I think it's more of a creep, like a slow creep through a lot of these stories because it's a lot of things not being there. Not the whole horror thing's about not knowing, and or some stories you know too much that it's so scary. So it's pretty good. And then I'm still writing my full-fledged novel about trauma and how trauma can affect you. Because it's not a horror story, it's more of a mockumentary in a sense. That's also being written. The last thing I sold was the Static Witch, which I got 12 people to buy it and they all liked it. It was I got 500 or something bucks off. It was not bad, though it's not my greatest work. But though I think the Diary of the Coyote is a lot better than my first. All right, we're gonna continue with the boxes. Or I could do, you know, I could do these two and then these two as the final ones to be fair. Because the video's already at 44 minutes and 2 seconds. That's why I like listening to these. I like the way I write is more of like horror stories. I like writing from a monster's perspective in a sense. Like that's the whole thing of the Coyote. You're reading a diary, and these diaries is you're reading it as if it's like happening like through the creature's eyes, and it updates itself, and the book is reacting. It's really, really cool. I like this. I've been wanting to write like a stalker kind of situation, like the strangers meets like creep stuff, but I have not had a nice idea of it yet. I've had a pretty like gruesome, like I makes me feel dirty idea, but I didn't roll with it because I couldn't get far with it. But this I'm really liking. We're going to continue with... Actually, no. We're going to finish this another time because I don't want the video to be over 45 minutes. We've been... Yeah, I'm going to be doing that soon.